So we'll get this podcast rolling. Today we're going to talk about a very special composer and some recommendations. So I did a deep dive on Hildur Guðnadóttir ttir. She is an Icelandic composer. She is 39 years old, and she is the only female composer to win both a BAFTA and Golden Globe so far. Have you seen Chernobyl and The Joker?
Yes. Well, I've seen The Joker. I've talked about that a few times. I haven't seen all of the Chernobyl show. I think I got like 3 episodes in, and then I just somehow just never went back to it.
You were like, I get it.
No, it was really good. It was like it's like Peaky Blinders.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like everyone's like, oh, you got to watch that show. It's so good. And it's a good show. It was a little slow. I think I just kind of fell off.
There's certain shows where you start watching it, you get like 3 episodes in, and you're like, okay, I get the vibe. And the vibe is kind of similar every episode. So you're like, I understand what's happening, and like I've had enough of it.
Yeah. But no, it's really good show. Score's cool. The Joker is honestly one of my favorite soundtracks. So she did an amazing job on it. It's funny because I think I talked about this before. When I listened to the soundtrack before I saw the movie, I was just like, man, this shit's really dark.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite appreciate the music. I thought it sounded really good, but I don't think I really appreciated it as much until I saw the movie and then heard the music to the picture. Because I was just like, oh, it just pulled me in.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the really dark and depressing parts in that movie, the entire time was just hooked and engaged with that movie. Because I really appreciated the story and what they were trying to do with it. And I know there's a little bit of controversy when it first came out. Some people with some of the subject matter and
sure, the influences.
Yeah, exactly. But it's I think the thing that I really liked about it was concept wise was the whole what you do to people will have an effect.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just treat people like that and then when something happens be kind of
shocked.
Yeah, shocked about it. It's especially with bullying and stuff like that. And I mean, it's nowadays it's with social media, so many people think they get to say whatever they want, keyboard warriors and all that kind of thing. And it's you don't think about hey, what you say has an effect on people and could have an effect on yourself too. So it's be a good person. And like in the movie, after he kills the one guy, spoiler if anyone hasn't seen it, if you haven't, that's your problem. But when he kills the guy who handed him a gun and basically was a part in him getting fired. And then there's the little the shorter guy, he's a little person, he pretty much let him go because he was hey, you're always nice to me kind of thing. And it's I know this is kind of totally getting derailed from the music aspect, but I'm just oh man, it's such a good movie. But yeah, that soundtrack, when I heard it and heard it while watching the movie, I was just man, she did such a good job at nailing that that dark vibe, and that soundtrack just builds
right.
And especially in the end, there's because it's pretty much just cello and maybe some subtle percussion. For the most part, it's pretty just minimal. But then it's at the end that theme that you hear, with brass, and it's a little bit more I wouldn't really say fanfaric, but almost, because all these people are now cheering him on.
Yes.
All these people who are supporting what he's doing. And it's just a great soundtrack. I'll shut up now about it.
Yeah. So let me tell you some stuff about it. So the music editor for the film told Todd Phillips, hey, I know this female composer from her solo electroacoustic artist career. And she's done several solo albums that are just solo cello with a lot of loops and ambiances and sound design. And he was she would be perfect for the Joker. And so the music editor was adamant that she should be the composer for this music. So Todd Phillips gave her a call and said, hey, will you read this script and then write some music based on your feelings produced by reading the script? And she was like, sure, I'm very interested. And she was like, I want you to know that if you're trying to make an action film, a DC Comics film, I'm probably not the person for it. And he was like, no, this is totally different than Hans Zimmer Batman stuff. Mm-hmm. And she was like, okay. So she started composing music for the film before any shooting had happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were piping in the music as they were filming. So they were playing the music on set, and Joaquin Phoenix had an earpiece in, and like the famous bathroom dance scene was him doing interpretive dance to the music she had already written.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember reading about that. Yeah, I thought that was awesome. That's like honestly like one of my favorite scenes in that movie too. It's just so I don't want to use the word artsy, but it just has so much like I don't know. It's just so good.
Gravitas, yeah.
Yeah, it's just powerful. Like
Yeah.
especially after like what he just did, before that scene too, and then now you're just like it's like you're seeing him kind of like slowly kind of
Transform.
come out of exactly, like that was like it's like watching Breaking Bad and seeing that those little moments where Walt kind of becomes Heisenberg, like with the whole like Tuco and like the
you see it one by one making decisions that change who you are,
and then they kind of have that confidence afterward where like they're a little bit they're not as like passive anymore or that sort of thing. And I love that kind of stuff where you're just seeing like little subtle like character development and stuff like that.
So in order to like break down her career, you kind of have to start with the Iceland bond. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's basically Iceland is an island and everyone knows each other. Mm-hmm. And they had very little influence from outside countries for years and years. And so the music basically just became very specialized and very folk and national, like a lot of nationalism. Mm-hmm. And so anyone that you can think of from Iceland like has a deep respect for each other, and they listen to each other's music. And there's like just this like huge culmination of music careers that have come out of Iceland, mm-hmm. including like Björk and of Monsters and Men, Niels Fromm, Olafur Arnalds, the list goes on. But mm-hmm. Hildur is one of these kind of up and rising Icelandic composers. Mm-hmm. And she started working with Johann Johannson, and they did a lot of co-writing music. And she said that collaboration was basically them sitting in a room and her playing, like improvising something on the cello. And he says, wow, cool. And then her playing something new. And he says, wow, I like that too. And that was kind of their like collaborative bond from mm-hmm. Iceland. And they did Sicario like that and several other projects. And she talked about how she didn't get credit, like writing credit on several of those. And that was kind of an interesting factor in her earlier career. And then after he died, she did Sicario 2 by herself. And then she's had this glow up in the last 4 years, basically, of doing Chernobyl and the Joker. And she's also very versatile. She does a show called Bubble Guppies, which is an animated Nickelodeon show that you should check out. It's very like pop, cheesy, young mm-hmm. kids kind of music underwater. And then she just did the video game Battlefield 2042. And she works really closely with her husband, and her husband is named Sam Slater. And Sam was a engineer and like assistant for Johann, and that's how they met. And he's a British composer and sound designer, and he did a lot of sound design on Chernobyl and the Joker. And so basically she plays all of these phrases and these like sound designed musical ideas, and then they collaborate on making the finished product, which is pretty cool. For Chernobyl, they went to a decommissioned nuclear power plant in Lithuania, and they had 6 hours to capture field recording of sounds that the factory was making. And so they used like a bunch of doors, like a lot of squeaks and like creaks and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then they made impulse responses and ran her vocals through that reverb.
Crazy. Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's like, if every composer had that option of being able to like record and do creating their own instruments for a score, I think, whenever they can do that, they will. But I think that, definitely adds a lot more of that kind of like authenticity to the soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the things, like when she was talking about making the music, she said, I wanted to feel the radiation in the music. So I wanted to keep it very somber. No, and she was like, no, like electronic cheesy drums or anything that was like that would make it more epic or more like not intense, but more like take it in a direction that I didn't want. And so I kept it as sparse as possible using these sound designed field recordings and my voice and the cello. And then the other thing that she's kind of famous for is something called a Halldorophone. And this Halldorophone is pretty cool. It is a cello-like electronic instrument created by artist and designer Hildur Guðnadóttir. And it's designed specifically to feedback the strings. It says, making use of the phenomenon of positive feedback to incite the strings to drone. And you can look up YouTube videos of this. She performs it in several videos, but it's like a hybrid cello thing with an aluminum neck, and it feeds back as you play it. So it creates these like long resonating drones, and you can pick different notes to feed back as you're playing.
Interesting.
And she uses this in like most of her scores. So it sounds like a cello at first when you're hearing it, but has all these overtones and feedback kind of going on top of it. And her studio in Berlin was too small, and so she went to Neil Fromm's room and recorded this Halldorophone in his room and had like all these amps blaring and stuff, and she was recording the amps as well as the direct and just getting all these crazy feedback things. And she talks about the fridge scene in Joker was one of the big parts where she was making all these like feedback sound design, just really intense like squeaks. But she talks about her studio, and she's very proud that her studio is as knob free as possible, which is a funny thing to say.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty minimalistic. I remember seeing people posting about that on socials. They're like, I mean, it's like, this room, it's nothing crazy, but it's just like anything. Like, you don't need all that. It's like a lot of people are just like, see, you don't need all the crazy analog gear and all this stuff. And she's doing the soundtrack for the Joker,
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like it's one of those things, like certain people just work better maybe in a little bit more of a minimalistic thing. Like I know we've talked about this before. Like sometimes it's like what gets you creative. Some people it's just seeing a desk with nothing on it, clean slate, fresh idea. It's like, the whole feng shui thing, like if that is a real thing, like, which I believe, honestly, like, I mean, even now, like whoever is watching this, you've probably seen this room change. I know we've talked about it before too. And it's like stuff is always changing. And yeah, I think that's really cool that, because her setup's super clean and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And I mean, like composers like Rachel Portman are sitting at their baby grand piano with a pencil and paper and handwriting these ideas out. And so, everyone finds their own workflow.
Yeah. Like John Williams, he's been doing the same thing too. And I was reading something that he was saying, he would, he's kind of looked into that sort
Digital
of
stuff.
Yeah. He's like, I know a little bit about it, but this has always worked for me. And
but
I think that's
he's retiring though. He's finally retiring. And Harrison Ford said, if John Williams can retire, then maybe I can too.
We'll see how long that goes.
So my two big takeaways from Hildur's career so far is, number one, it's really good to expand what you're doing musically, because she actually got her start as a classical cellist. She was singing, like she was writing music for theater, writing music for short films. She was a touring cellist doing session work, and she had the Iceland bond. And she toured for a while with a band called the Animal Collective. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're kind of like a post-rock group.
Okay.
I think one of the most valuable things as a musician is being able to do a lot of things, especially early on, because you never know like how people are going to know your work. So her solo artistry was what got her this Joker gig.
You don't know what you're going to be famous for.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then the second thing is collaboration, because she was collaborating with Johann. She met her husband that way. Pretty much like that catapulted her career into what it is now. She has the Iceland bond. She could send an email or make a phone call to most people in Iceland and they would have that bond. So if you can collaborate with fellow musicians and have that common thread that keeps you together, that's very helpful.
Yeah. And just being in Iceland, I want to go there. That place is amazing.
Go do some sound design.
No, I would go and just watch the Northern Lights, probably
Yeah.
listen to Wardruna and just relax.
So I think that's it on Hildur. And we can move on to recommendations. What you got this week?
So a couple things. I've been kind of getting back into plugins again.
Oh,
Recently got Pro L2.
Okay.
You know, I've been using a lot of the FabFilter stuff for a long time, and that's the only one that I haven't had that I've used before. You know, but I was just like, oh, you know, it's like one of those. I haven't used it in so long, I almost kind of forgot. But you know, it's like everyone has good things to say about Pro L, so I got that. I also got this other compressor. It's called the Argent compressor.
Oh yeah.
I was talking about it a little bit in the Soundiron chat. It seems like it's very inspired by kind of like what Mick Gordon was doing with Doom. I think he like made his own compressor or something for that soundtrack, and he would just like run sine waves with distortion through it, and it just sounded out of control.
That's awesome.
It's like it's a very punishing piece of software. Like I was like, you could run drones through it, and it just sounds gnarly. So I've been messing around with that. And on a side note, this is not music related. It's food related.
Ooh.
Costco has this sauce called bitchin' sauce. I love the name. Like, hey, let me get some of that sauce. Which one? The bitchin' sauce. No, I know what you think about it, but like, what's it called? It's called bitchin' sauce.
That's powerful.
And it's dairy free.
Okay.
And dude, it's like Frank's, like, you know, Frank's. You just put that on everything, and it's just so good.
So it's a hot sauce?
No, it's like they have different ones. They have like artichoke one and like an original one. The original one's I'm not too much of a fan of, but this one is it's the Chipotle bitchin' sauce.
Nice.
So good. Yeah.
Sounds good. I'll have to try it. I don't have that Costco connection though.
Well, it's worth it.
get the annual membership,
or just you know, or if you know, if you're in town, I'll get you like a couple packs of them.
Thanks, dude. That means a lot.
Well, you know, hey man, that's the least I can do. Get you some bitchin' sauce.
That's a good rec. My recommendation is I just started watching Band of Brothers. I know I'm like 20 years late on that, but the paratroopers that they interview, the old men at the beginning of each episode, is like so intense for me. Just like looking at these guys talking about their experiences from 50 years ago. And man, it's just like so moving because they're talking about jumping out of these planes into France. And it's like, man, I can't even imagine a situation like that. And then I just watched A River Runs Through It, and I'm over 20 years late on that one too. Have you seen that movie?
No, I don't think so. I've heard the name. Oh man, I know I've heard the name before, but I'm trying to remember like what it's even about. Yeah,
so it's a movie. Well, Brad Pitt's in it.
Oh, okay.
It's Robert Redford kind of passion project. He directed it. It's from 1992, and it's about a Presbyterian minister and his two sons, and they are fly fishermen. So it's set in Montana, and it has a really, really nice score to it. And I have to look up who scored it because I forgot already.
Don't feel bad, man. I forgot what I was just doing 5 minutes ago.
Mark Isham did the music.
Oh, yeah.
And it is like beautiful, folksy, hymnsy. Cinematography is beautiful. The movie itself is rather slow. Brad Pitt has tons of charisma. He's in his 20s in this movie, so it's kind of a similar timeline to like Thelma and Louise. That kind of
okay,
like very young Brad Pitt, but it's really good. If you love Montana, if you love like Western mountains, it's probably worth watching just for the landscape and the music.
Nice. Good old Montana. Montana. Well, for a second, it sounded like I was doing a horrible Bane impression for a second. Oh, you're going to watch Montana. River runs through it, Batman. Yeah.
I thought you were doing Jeff Bridges at first.
Hey, man.
Speaking of Jeff Bridges, have you watched The Old Man?
No, but I am planning to. I saw the trailer. My girlfriend told me about it. Denise told me about it, and she's like, sent me the trailer. We got to watch this.
Yeah, 100%. So he just went on the Smartless podcast. I don't know if you listen to that, but it's pretty fun, just like entertainment. But he went on, and Jeff Bridges is like kind of my new hero. He's been married to the same lady for 45 years and has just had like a crazy awesome career. And he bought a ranch in Montana, and they just live in Montana.
That's the Montana connection right there.
Yep. Connect all the dots.
Yeah, you can't mess with the dude, man.
Yeah, if you enjoy Jeff Bridges and you enjoy podcasts, you should definitely listen to Smartless, because he says "man" probably 50 times in an hour.
Hey man, listen here, man. It's crazy.
It brings a smile to your face.
Yeah, every time he says it, all the dude lovers out there are just like,
another good day.
Oh, so, speaking of recommendations, sorry to cut you off.
No, it's good.
There was a movie I think that he did called like Hell or High Water. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I have seen that. Yeah,
that was a good movie.
It's Chris Pine, right?
Yeah. Chris Pine's in it.
Just watched it recently.
Yeah, it's a really good movie.
It's like a newer Western. I think on that note, we're going to wrap the podcast here. If you're not subscribed to the pod already, to the YouTube channel, you should definitely do that. You should join our Discord if you want to get up close and personal. And we've got some really cool guests coming on in the next couple months. If you have somebody that you think we should talk to, send us an email and let us know.
Let us know. Get on the Discord. We could talk more about bitchin' sauce.
We can do some free samples.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do a contest, and I'll send the lucky winner a jar of Chipotle bitchin' sauce.
Yeah, and then are we gonna do a contest?
We'll see.
We're talking about doing a contest. If you love contests, let us know, and we'll take that into account.
Yeah, we might drum one up for you. Patats.
Oh. All right, Craig. I'll catch you next week, my man.
All right, man. Adios.
Peace.
Peace.